Hi, everybody. Welcome to our very next session on automation dreaming, all about Slack. So, we have a special session today, Build Simplified Salesforce Processes on Slack from Krishna Patel. So, Krishna, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you take it from here.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I want to give you a small taste of how you can take small, simplified Salesforce processes and integrate them directly inside Slack. So a little bit about myself before we get started. Oops, there we go. So my name is Krish. I'm a partner engineer at Slack. A lot of my day-to-day involves working with partners who have apps on our app directory. So whether that's building their first app or adding existing features to their current app, or just simply driving usage towards those apps, I really help those partners from start to finish, and that's a lot of what I do on my day-to-day. So outside of work, I'm also an avid snowboarder. I love going to the gym and take a lot of care of my nutrition. And of course, I occasionally cut my own hair. That's a little trick I learned from the pandemic in the past 2 years. So I want to tell you a little bit about one of our customers, Northern Troll Outfitters. So at Slack, we love to learn about the innovative ways customers use our platform. We are intentional about creating tools that help reduce unnecessary friction so people could focus on doing their best work every single day. Northern Troll Outfitters is one of those customers. They built a Slack app that empowers their organization to, really reduce a lot of the context switching and the back and forths that they have to do in their day-to-day life. So here we have two key stakeholders at Northern Troll Outfitters. We have Lisa and Arcadio. Lisa is one of Northern Troll Outfitters' most active buyers. As a buyer, she's always traveling, working with her vendors, and looking to get the best products for her customers. On the bottom, we have Arcadio, Lisa's manager. And as a manager, one of Arcadio's primary tasks is to remove any blockers that would prevent Lisa from doing her best work. To stay on top of travel costs, Northern Troll Outfitters requires its teams to submit travel requests directly within its Salesforce account. They store these requests inside Salesforce custom objects to keep these processes as lean and customizable as possible. So I want to show you how Lisa would traditionally log a travel request inside her Salesforce account when she wants to go meet one of her vendors. So this is Lisa's Salesforce account right here inside the travel request window. If you want to create a new travel request, you click on the new button right here, which would open a form with some information that she'd have to fill out. Once she's filled this out, she can click on the save button, and a travel request will have been logged, and it looks a little something like this. Now, the next step in this process will be for her manager, Arcadio, to log into his Salesforce account and take a look at this request. From there, he'd be able to either approve or reject this request. So while Salesforce is Northern Troll Outfitters' CRM of choice, Slack is her digital HQ. Lisa spends a lot of her day-to-day on Slack, from internal communication to posting updates to her team, or even communicating with her vendors. Slack is where Lisa does her best work. So knowing this, Northern Troll Outfitters want to find a way to integrate this travel approval process directly inside of Slack. So earlier I've shown you what it looks like on Salesforce. Now I want to show you how this can be done from start to finish, all on Slack. So let's jump into the demo. Over here, I have a window open with Lisa's Slack account. And I have right here in the center of the screen the travel request app. So this app is going to be powering all the powerful workflow you're about to see. On the second window, we have Arcadio's Slack account. Now, we'll get back to this a little bit later on in the demo to show you how this app could improve Arcadio's life as well. So starting off with Lisa. Let's say Lisa wanted to travel to a conference. She just had a chat with one of her managers, and now she'd like to submit a new travel request from Slack. How could she do that? Well, to get started, we have the travel request app, and we have a global shortcut that allows her to do that. Now, a global shortcut can be accessed from the bottom left-hand side of the screen right here by clicking on the little plus icon. Here, she can browse all shortcuts available, and you can see all the different apps that are available from within Slack. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we'll go to our travel request app, and we have here a create travel request shortcut. Now, clicking on this will open up a modal, or otherwise known as a pop-up. And if you notice, this form is the exact same one that you've seen earlier on Salesforce.com. So let's fill some of this information out. Let's say Lisa traveling from San Francisco to New York. Start date today, end date being next week. Estimate cost for travels, let's say $5,000. Her approver is going to be her manager, Arcadio. And finally, for description, let's say traveling for a conference. And she could click on submit. And now this information that she just filled out will get sent to her Salesforce account. And then we have right here a little notification that lets us know that the travel request has been created. So that's one aspect of the app, right? We've just allowed Lisa to successfully create a travel request from within Slack. Let's take a look at what else the Slack app can do. So on the bottom left-hand side, we have our travel request app. We could go ahead and click on this. This will bring us to the app's home tab. Now, the home tab is kind of like a landing page for the app. And as you can see here, you can see all the recent travel requests that Lisa has logged. She can also create a new travel request by clicking right here. And she can also view more details about each travel request. Now, what this will do is it'll open, well, I guess I'm not logged in, but it'll open up the travel request directly inside the Salesforce account. Now, let's take a look at what Arcadio sees when Lisa logs a travel request. We'll see here that he just got a new message. So we'll go take a look at this. So Arcadio just received a message that a new travel request has been logged and that he has to approve it or reject it. He can also see the same information from within the travel request to review button right here by clicking on this. And he can see all the travel requests that he has to approve. Now, the latest one that Lisa just submitted is right here. So we'll go ahead and approve this. And you'll notice that we just got a new message. This message is directed for Lisa and just lets her know that her travel request has been approved. And she can see also the changes right here on her app home tab that it has been approved. So there you have it. The entire process of creating a travel request, of viewing them, and also approving or rejecting them, all done quick and seamlessly from within Slack without ever having to go to Salesforce.com. So let's jump a little bit into how this app comes together with some of the features from the Slack platform that enables it. So at the core of a Slack app's experience is truly the interactivity that it has with its users. So an end user will interact with something called a trigger. Now, a trigger could be just seen or a button, like for example, the approve or reject button. When a user clicks on a trigger, it sends information to our Slack app. Now, the Slack app decides what to do with this information and responds in one of many ways, such as opening a modal, sending back a message, or sending an event back. In the demo you've just seen, we've seen Lisa interact with a global shortcut. The app then responded by opening up a modal. This allowed Lisa to input all the information related to her travels. And then finally, this information was sent to her Salesforce.com and also updated in the app's home tab. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these specific features. The global shortcut, like I've told you earlier, can be accessed in many different places within Slack. So it can be accessed inside of channels, inside of DMs, and even inside the search bar at the top. Hence why the name is called global. So this feature is very easy to use, it's very accessible, and it's very user-friendly. And it really kickstarts the interaction between the user and the app. This is something that you'll come across in many, many Slack apps. So when creating global shortcuts, it's also a good idea to pair them with modals. Now, modals are created using Slack's UI framework called BlockKit. So you see every little input form that you see right there on screen. So the origin, the destination, the start date, and the label, those are all what we call blocks. Now, what's great about these blocks is that you could stack them one on top of the other, kind of like Legos. So the origin, the destination, all stacked one on top of the other. Now, what's great about BlockKit is that it provides a consistent user experience regardless of what platform you're on. So that great travel request form that you just created for Windows and Macs, well, it'll look and feel just as good on iOS or Android without having to make any changes to your code. Earlier, we've talked about triggers and how triggers send information to your Slack app. Now, this is an example of what that data or that information may look like. So this gets sent to your Slack app, and then the developer is truly the one that decides what to do with this information. You can send this information to your Salesforce.com account. You can send this over to your app home tab. It's truly up to you what you want to do with this information. So this leads us to the final key piece of the user experience, and that's the app home. Now, the app home, like I said, is kind of like a landing page for the app. So what the user sees in this tab is completely customizable by the developer. So it could be a place where the user learns how to use your app. It could be a place where the user interacts with your app, or it could simply be a place, like in the case of our travel request app, a place to see all the information that the user wants to see. And there you have it. The travel request app is just one of the many ways Slack and Salesforce come together to simplify processes and boost productivity. The possibilities here are truly endless. So if you think that there's something out there, a process out there that can be done a little bit simpler, that can guarantee you with a little bit of help from Slack, it definitely can be a little bit simpler. I want to thank you all for attending and taking the time to listen to me and talk about Slack. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. I have if you want to stay in contact, I have some of my information right up there on screen. And I'll open the floor up to some Q&A.
Awesome. Amazing session, Krishna. Sorry, that always takes a second to get the video back on again. I'm just checking the chat. I see a bunch of awesomes. Thanks. Great presentation. Good job. But I don't see any questions coming in. Oh, we do have one. So a question from Mark. Is there a way to connect flow actions in Slack to the shortcut creator?
That's a good question. I'm well versed on the Slack side, but I'm not 100% well versed on the Salesforce side. Flow is one of those things that I'm not super up to date on. But what I can tell you from Slack side is that when you create an app, you have access to our API, right? So I'll answer this question like maybe not a yes or no, but more of like an informative way. So you have access to our API, and if the way Flow works, if you could send a request to your Slack app, then there is a way to connect Flow with your shortcut.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know just from having spoken to Katie, who organized all of this with Krishna, yourself, and Automation Dreaming, there's a lot of developments coming up around bringing Slack and Salesforce closer together now that everybody's part of the same big happy family there. So might be that there's some roadmap items there too.
Totally, yeah. And there's been things that have been announced at Dreamforce or even at Slack Frontiers recently that really highlight how things are coming together between Slack and Salesforce. I think Flow is one of them, but there's many other initiatives going on to really merge the two platforms together. And you can get started today. Like what I just shown you right there is something that you could do today, but we will have a lot more options and tools available for people to connect to platforms.
Cool. I think I even heard mention of being able to use Apex with Slack too. So if Apex is coming, then Flow more than likely would be right around the corner there.
Yep.
Cool. Any other questions from the audience? I'm keeping my eye on the Q&R section and on the session chat. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Krishna. Awesome live demo, by the way. That's always a pleasure to see. And we will be around for the next set of sessions. So our next 3 coming up, let me just check the calendar here, are going to be a better SFMC workflow from Tony, all about Marketing Cloud and using the developer tools and Git with version control. We have custom metadata and flow coming from Michelle Hansen, which is sure to be an awesome session. She did a great one yesterday. And then Evan back for a second session as well. One flow versus multiple flows, which one flow runs faster. So thank you for joining us, Krishna. I'll stop us here.
Thank you. See ya.